bunnies, welcome back to Woodland Bunny, a cozy space to talk books. Today we are escaping into a fever dream-esque and we are reading one of my favourite genres at the moment / sub-genres, and that is weird lit fic. I've picked out a few books from my shelves that I've actually recently hauled and I'm very excited to get to. Haven't heard many things about these books apart from them being described as the weird lit fic genre and fitting into that, so I'm very excited to read them all. I'll quickly speed through their titles. First of all, we have Earthlings. Then next up we have The New Me, Patricia Wants to Cuddle, and Mostly Dead Things. And I'm just so very excited to get to all of these and just do a dedicated adventure to embarking and reading on weird lit fic, because like I say, it's a genre which I'm absolutely obsessed with at the moment, and hopefully all of these are really good reads. I'm so very excited, so grab yourself a warming cup of tea, a cozy blanket, and let's get to reading. Finished Earthlings, and my goodness, I think this book might stay with me forever. It was filled with so much interesting, crazy, mind-boggling bits and topics and themes and characters, and this was so heavily focused on trauma but in a kind of unhinged narration way, and our main characters in here were believing they were from another planet, and that was kind of them coping with their trauma. The trauma is very obvious within this book, so I definitely highly recommend picking up and looking at trigger warnings before reading this one. But this was just phenomenal. I can't get over the writing, I can't get over the characters or the themes included in this, and I just thought it was superbly done. It's flicking back between present and past in the beginning of the book, and then as we progress it goes more into the storyline, and I thought it was just heartbreaking, like it says in the front, but so mind-boggling and so beautifully done, and I just had so much fun with this. And well, actually I don't think fun is the right term, because it was full of trauma and full of so much traumatic events, but the way that this was kind of overlooked with this different lens of being aliens and being from another world. And yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, because I feel like this will take you for a wild ride, and it's best to go into it with no thoughts about it because it will just blow you away. But the sections on trauma were very hard to read, very heartbreaking, but apart from that I thought that it was just superb, and it was great and fantastic. And yeah, I can see why this one is very well beloved, so I'm going to pick up my next book from the TBR and we'll get to reading whatever I choose next. I just honestly cannot stop thinking about this book. It was just so good. I'm 71 pages into Patricia Wants to Cuddle, and I'm finding it so intriguing so far. The different change in how this book is written. You have the kind of two different formats. First of all, you have the switch and the multiple POVs of the different women within this event and within this challenge, I want to call it, and also some of one of the producer women. And then you also have a chat slash Reddit forum going on, and you see what viewers at home are talking about and discussing, and then you get the perspectives from the women and the producer that are on the television program themselves. And I find this really interesting, this kind of shift in narrative and shift in format, because it's giving you more of a wider scope of the story and more of an understanding of the background and what's going on, because there is an element of mystery and ominous tone overlying this whole entire novel. I just feel so on edge reading it, and there's just like little bits that are pointing to something more, but you're not quite sure what's going on, and I can't quite figure out what's going on either. It seems really normal on the cusp of it, but at the same time I feel like the perspective from these different women, it feels very artificial, and they're all in this competition for different reasons and they're all out to get something. But this extra kind of plot of this ominous tone going on within the novel is kind of adding to the plot, and it feels very convoluted when trying to explain it, but I think it just blends beautifully, and I'm just very intrigued to see how the author's going to progress this one and what's going to happen, how it's going to resolve, and what the resolution is actually going to turn out to be. So I'm going to keep reading and then I'll keep you updated on my thoughts, but very interested and intrigued so far and flying through it. Just finished reading this one, and it was such a crazy, wild, unhinged ride. It had the themes of it being contestant slash reality TV show, all about finding love and people being fake, and then it was set on like a remote small town island. It was quite gory in parts. It had this mystery running through it as well, and just a very unhinged, unresolved ending, in which I quite liked the obscurity of that, in terms of you didn't really know what had happened and why it had happened. I think it was a really enjoyable and fun read. I loved the different change in formats. It has a lot of different POVs from each of the contestants on this sort of game show slash reality TV show, and then it also flips to kind of Reddit threads slash posts of what people at home who are watching the show are talking about, and then it also flips to blog posts as well. So I quite enjoy the different change in formats. I don't know how this would read audibly, and whether you would have to kind of be reading it physically. I feel like my brain wouldn't be able to differentiate it, whereas having it in the different physical formats while reading it was really good. So yes, I do recommend this. I'm rating it 3.5 stars purely because I'm still not certain on the point of this book, and there were quite a few elements of it that I just found quite slow and quite bedraggled. But overall, I think it was a really good read. So I'm going to pick up the next book in my TBR, and I'll let you know my thoughts once I get to it. the mostly said things, and I'm rating it a 3 stars. I think it was a solid read. It had themes of taxidermy, kind of trigger warning for animal gruesome deaths, quite graphic scenery. It also had themes of grief and loss of a loved one. It had themes of healing family relationships and also abandonment issues and healing from trauma, and kind of expression through arts, understanding and accepting love again. I feel as though this was a book that had so many heavy themes packed into it, and it was very much like a family drama piece almost, of these people just experiencing loss and love and trauma and trying to get through it and trying to deal with it and cope with it all in their own way. And I thought it was a very interesting take on it, having the frontal bit of the taxidermy element in there. It isn't like anything I've really read before. It was less weird literature and unhinged literature and more just kind of gruesome, grotesque explorationary piece around what grief means to these people and all of those themes. So yeah, I feel like it was a solid read. Like I say, definitely trigger warning for gruesome deaths of animals. I found it quite hard to stomach, and some of the scenes in here as well were quite a bit unsettling. But other than that, I had a really interesting time with this one, so I do recommend this one if those themes sound interesting to you. So now on to the final book on my TBR, in which is The New Me. So let's get to reading this one. Hi friends, I just wanted to do a little check-in. I'm so close to the end of The New Me now, and I am enjoying it. I think it's full of female rage, a lot of kind of existentialism, a lot of discussion on depression and monotony in life, and yeah, it's really interesting also doing up the different perspectives that we're having in this book too. I also just wanted to share, this is really silly, but this is my first ever like sewing and stitching project. It's a lavender heatable beanbag, and it's my favorite thing ever. So if you see a lot of clips of this, and that is what it is, it's not just a piece of fabric. I promise you it does have like beans, and this is just the case of it, and I'm really proud of it. It's my first ever sewing project, and I'm really hoping to get more into sewing and embroidery. But yes, I'm working from home today as I'm not feeling very good. But back to what the topic is, unhinged books. I will give you my full review once I finish this one, but finding it very interesting so far. I just finished The New Me and I'm rating it 3 stars. I found it a little tricky to read in the sense of how our protagonist was acting, and sometimes there were different perspectives and POVs in this book in which they were very related to the main character, but I don't know if they added much to this story in the sense of progression of the plot, because there was no progression in the plot here. This is a lot about negative circles of depression and kind of just the how life just goes on, and the concept of time and individuality. There's somewhat philosophy discussion in here about individuality. The main character felt immensely strongly about it, but yeah, I feel like the whole thing about saying female rage is very apt and very on point for this, and it felt, yeah, it was a little bit mind-boggling in the sense you didn't really know what you were reading and you didn't really know where you were getting to, but I found it like enjoyable, I found it entertaining, and I think that was the whole purpose of it. I feel like I might have to do a reread in the future because I don't feel as I managed to get in depth as I wanted to. This took me such a long time to read, and I just don't know if it's because of the writing style or the way in which this book was structured, but I do recommend it if those themes do sound interesting to you. It was quite an interesting one, but definitely one in which I need to reflect on more, I think. So those are all of the books that were on the TBR for this reading adventure today, friends. Thank you ever so much for watching. I definitely want to do a second installment in this kind of little reading weird books genre, subgenre series, because I have so many more on my TBR that I want to get to. I was scrolling through Everend last night and found so many, so I really want to do another installment, but for now I'm going to say thank you ever so much for watching. I hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you have a wonderful day or night, and until next time, bye!